I think it's already 6 p.m., so let us start. A very good evening to all of you. And thank you, Jennifer, for taking out some of your valuable time for the session. We really appreciate it. Before we move ahead, let me give a brief introduction of Jennifer. Jennifer has been a professor in 3 bilingual and international education master's program in Spain for the past 14 years. Her main courses are learning theory, teaching methods, and curriculum design. She has been a teacher, trainer, and professor for over 23 years. She has created and taught over 120 courses in all parts of Spain, Europe, and worldwide. She specializes in CLIL, that's Content Language Integrated Learning, Maker Education, Project Based Learning, the session that we are having today, Design Thinking, Music and Movement, Social and Emotional Learning, Neuroeducation that we already had, 21st Century Skills, Executive Function Skills, and Growth Mindset, and many more. So, Jennifer, without wasting a second more, I'd like to hand over the show to you. Please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm really happy to see you guys here today for a webinar on PBL. I am a big promoter, believer in PBL. I taught it for many years. I've made many projects. I'm going to share some projects with you guys today. And I really think it's worth trying to implement into your classrooms. I'm going to show you, from doing this for many years, I'd like to show you how I've come to work with PBL. I'm going to show you the standard 7 steps. They're not my 7 steps. They are the 7 steps of PBL. I'm going to show them to you. And I'm going to show you the way I approach it and that I have found that it works best to be realistic for how to handle projects. The first thing I'd like to talk to you guys about is, what do we mean when we say project-based learning? Now, sometimes teachers that are working with me, their concept of a project is, I teach the unit, we finish the unit, and then I send a project home with the kids. The kids do the project at home, and then they come in and they show the project. That's not project-based learning. Project-based learning is done in the classroom with you. Okay, so that's the first big thing we want to get covered here, okay? Is it's happening in the classroom with you. Now, let me explain just briefly why. And for those of you who took the neuroeducation webinar, you'll understand why. We're trying to help our kids develop their knowledge and their brain. All the things we're doing is to help them with brain development, okay? Now, when kids are from very young through high school, we're trying to help them to learn how to develop what's called executive function skills, which are things like organization, planning, prioritizing, knowing how to get started, handling your emotions, being flexible. Project-based learning helps us do this. So if you send the project home and have the kids do it at home, many times mom or dad or someone in the family might be doing the project and not the child, okay? So that's why we do it in school with the kids. So let's go through. And so I just want to make that super clear. You're not sending a project home. They're doing it in school with you. And they're doing it in phases, okay? Now you can make the project as big as you want or as small as you want. You can do it for 1 unit. You can do it for multiple units. You could just do 1 project a year or multiple projects. It really depends on you, how much time you have to dedicate to this, and what your school is doing. What I want to show you is how we're going to do PBL without going away from our content. So we're going to teach the projects and make sure we teach all of the content or language, grammar, whatever that we need to teach. We're teaching it through the project, because that's one of the things a lot of teachers and schools tell me. They say, well, if we do the project, maybe the kids aren't going, we're going to spend too much time on the project and the kids aren't going to learn the math, the language, the science that they're supposed to be learning. That's not the goal of PBL. The goal is learning your content, but just doing it in a different way, okay? So let's go through how we would think about setting up a PBL. So when I go through this with teachers, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about a unit or if you're going to create your own unit, that would work well with a project. So let's look at this. When we do a project, we want to think about, what is the reason for the project? What community am I doing this related to? who's the audience, who's going to see this project, and what is an appropriate product we could create so that people could see what we've done. I'm going to go through each of these steps. Okay, and then later I'm going to show you the 7 official steps of PBL. But I'm trying to show you as the teacher the thinking process. The thinking process is, how do I connect my content to real life, right? If I'm teaching young kids and we're talking about animals, how can I connect that to real life? Do you want to do a project where the kids are going to teach others about animal respect? Or are you going to create a proposal for a dog walk park in your town? You know, what's the connection? Something real, okay? And maybe it's because we want to educate others. We want to share tips with other people about healthy eating. It all depends. What is the connection? Then you got to think, who are we making this for? Is the project for our classroom? Is the project for our school community? Do we want to create something in our school playground? Is it for our town? Is it for our district? Is it for our country? That's your community, okay? Who are we making this project for? Then, who's going to see the project? Because the project is supposed to be publicly presented. Even if it's only to your school, to parents, to other kids, who's the audience? Who's going to see it? How are we going to get them to see our project? That's the product. Should it be posters that we're going to hang around school? Should it be a fair that we're going to have? Should it be pamphlets, brochures, maps, prototypes? Then we decide, okay, what's the product and how are we going to present this to the community? Once you have that thought of, then we're going to go through the steps, okay? How do you find your reason? Your reason could be, well, maybe we're going to try to solve a problem. Maybe we're going to raise awareness about something. Maybe you guys in your community, maybe you have some wonderful resources that people don't know about. Maybe there's a lot of art in your community that people don't know about. Maybe you want to talk to and share information about travel, about nature, about food, whatever it is, okay? What are we sharing? What are we doing with this project? Okay, that's called the first step, is a need to know. We need to know why we're sharing this information, because then it makes it real, okay? Maybe we're proposing something like a dog park, or maybe we're proposing a new cultural fair. Do we want to educate others? Let's say it's a physical education class, and you're going to learn some stretching, and you're going to teach these stretches to other kids in the school, okay? What's the reason? Then, as we said, what's the community? Who is this for? Okay. Is the community, are these for dog pet owners? Are these for people who have kids? Is this for younger students in our school? Who's going to see this project? Because that makes a difference, right? So, for example, if your project is, we want to talk about sharing and we're going to write a book for younger kids at the school, then we have to know what the community is. We're doing this for our school. Our audience is the younger kids in younger grades. Well, we have to make a product that fits younger kids, okay? Maybe we're going to do drama or a little fairy tale book, right? It has to fit, okay? Then that's what we said. Who's the audience? Who's going to see this product, right? For other kids, parents, grandparents, owners of pets, foreign visitors, people who have a certain hobby, like they like to ride bikes, or they like to skateboard, or they like to play video games. Who's going to see this project? And then here are just a few possible products that you could make. You really need to think about all this stuff before starting a project. Otherwise, the project might not make much sense. Okay, so maybe the product could be a map, a model, some kind of performance, a museum exhibition in your school. They could come up with a proposal. It could be a display, posters, brochures, videos. It could be something you put on your school website. So many possibilities of what you can create. Okay, so now that we have that in our mind as the teacher, and we know, okay, this is what the project should be structured around. Now let's talk about how we start getting into the project. Let me open up the next one. And then I'm going to show you guys actual projects. I'm going to show you some examples. I'm going to take you through it, and I'm going to take you through the 7 steps. But the first part is really the teacher planning out how you're going to run the project. Okay. All right, it's coming up. Okay, here we go. So this is for ESL or for CLIL. Okay, it doesn't matter. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the thought on how to create your unit plan. Now, for many teachers, when I do a full PBL class with them, I ask them to make a digital plan of their project. So we make a PowerPoint or something like that with all the steps of the project, with all of the videos we need, with all of the resources, so that we have the project ready to go. Okay, one of the first things that we do, you can see this, unit planning is key. If you're going to do a project, you got to plan it out. So the first step is choose a unit or a theme that seems like it would be good for a project. Let me tell you, I've worked with thousands of teachers, and literally anything can become a project. Sometimes the worst units that we think are so boring become the best projects, okay? So the main thing is pick a unit that you think, okay, that would be a good unit for a project. Once you choose your unit, okay, let's say it's like fairy tales, or it could be in science, something like ecosystems. Once you choose your unit, then I want you to break it down into 4 subtopics. That way you can see your unit really clearly, okay? So if I say I'm going to teach a unit on ecosystems, I know I have to teach the characteristics, habitat, species, and adaptation. That's in my book. I have to cover it. It's part of my curriculum. But at the same time, I want the kids to do a project. So I have to make sure I cover all 4 of these areas, and they have to work with the project. So that's a really important thing that you think about. You don't want to skip parts of your unit for the project. You might have to once in a while, but for example, if you're teaching human systems like that, digestive, circulatory, respiratory, you can't cut part of that out, right? Somebody says it's not audible. Maybe that someone has a problem. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, I think it's audible from
Yes,
my
ma'am.
end.
Okay, someone said
Yes,
that
we can
it's
hear.
not audible.
I can hear.
Yes,
Okay,
It's very clear.
Thank you.
Jeff.
Someone must have a problem.
Yeah, might be
It's
the network
coming
issue.
through.
I'm
Okay,
clear.
Jennifer, please carry on.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So this is why you want to break down your unit into 4 subtopics. Now, here's the other thing. What we're going to do is we're going to try to do step by step, teach the, for example, the characteristics of an ecosystem, go to the project. Do something on the project. Teach the next, we're going to teach habitats, go back to the project. We're going to do a next step for the project. This way, everything that you need to teach gets taught, okay? If you're doing strictly a language unit, okay? The only thing is, if you're doing strictly language, you don't want to break your unit down into reading, writing, listening, and speaking, because that doesn't connect to a project. You don't want to break your unit down into present tense, past, no. You can have grammar, you should have grammar, but you should have a theme. And most books, if you look at even the English books, they're all in themes, right? The theme might be travel, it might be technology, our family, right? Those kinds of things. That would be your theme for the project. And then through it, you would be teaching your grammar, your vocabulary, etc. So you want to break down everything into themes, okay? Then, once you break it down into themes, you look at those 4 sections and you try to create what we call CALP. CALP comes from Content Language Integrated Learning, which is basically, let's call it a vocabulary list, the main vocabulary from the unit, okay? Then you have the teacher says, okay, now I have a pretty good idea of what I need to cover in this unit, all the content I need to cover, the language that needs to be covered. How am I going to turn this into a project? Okay? Now, what we usually do is we want to try to engage the students to get involved in the project and get them going and get them interested. Let me actually open this one. I didn't open this one. 1 second. I want to show you this. This one's actually a good way to understand how to start the project. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, let me share my Let me just share my screen. I want to show you how to start off a project and the way this teacher has thought to grab the attention of the kids. Because when we start off a project, the first thing that we have to have is the need to know. We said, okay, that's step number 1 of 7. How am I connecting my unit to something real? Okay. Secondly is what's called a driving question. And a driving question is a big question that we're going to attempt to answer when we finish the project. That's step number 2. So I want to show you how this teacher's presenting his project to the kids to get them engaged and what he's going to do with them. All right, let me show you. This one? Yeah.
Right again. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to say again because I never were. And
Project-based learning, or PBL, is an approach where students try to find solutions to a driving question that is based on a real-world challenge. This approach requires students to actively investigate and explore significant content and learn skills that are crucial to the process of answering the driving question. Throughout this video, I'll be mentioning the essential elements of PBL that the Buck Institute for Education, also known as BIE, has developed. BIE is a nonprofit organization dedicated in helping teachers use PBL effectively in their classrooms. BIE has divided the PBL process into 4 phases. Here's the flowchart of a PBL project. Let's first start with the launch of the project, the entry event, and the driving question. The entry event is an event that catches the interest of your students about a specific topic. This could be in the form of a video, a lively discussion, a guest speaker, a field trip, or a compelling scenario. The driving question is a clear, open-ended, and intriguing question that gives a sense of what the project is all about. It should be connected to an instructional goal and helps drive exploration. Let's now look at an example. Here's a kindergarten physical science unit that focuses on forces and interactions, pushes and pulls. An entry event for this unit could be the music video, "This Too Shall Pass" by the band OK Go. It captures a working Rube Goldberg machine in one unbroken video shot that ultimately triggers small cannons to shoot paint on the band, and all this while synchronizing with the song. You can find a link to the music video in the description below. The creativity and preciseness of this machine would grab the interest of the students and motivate them to make their own. The driving question for the unit is this: how can you, as an engineer, create a teaching item about Rube Goldberg machines that includes pushes and pulls that changes the speed or direction of objects? How can your machine exhibit your individuality and self-identity? This question.
Okay. I just want to stop there because I only wanted to show you the beginning of what I just said, the 7 steps. The first one is a need to know, okay? And the second one is the driving question. So this is what this teacher was showing us. He's doing a unit on simple machines, and he's grabbing the attention of the students by showing them this music video about simple machines, because that's what the kids are going to do. They're going to create their own simple machine, okay? So it's pretty typical at the beginning of a PBL unit lesson that you show the kids where you're going. You give them something to motivate them of interest so they can see what they're going to be creating. All right, let's go back to the unit. Okay. Okay, let's go to this one, and then I'm going to start showing you guys a project. Okay. So this is where I was just coming from. This was the teacher who showed you what's called an entry event. We also call it an advanced organizer. And the idea is to engage your students, activate prior knowledge, introduce some of your vocabulary, and finish with a driving question. So let's say I was doing a unit related to something with the universe. And so I'm going to use something like Buzz Lightyear's. I'm going to show the kids a picture of Buzz Lightyear's and start asking, what does Buzz Lightyear's do? What is his job? Where does he go? Introducing some of my vocabulary, getting the kids talking to me, lowering their fear. I'm going to maybe even introduce some difficult things like revolve, rotate, spin, orbit. And at the end, after I grab their attention, I have a driving question. How could we encourage people to visit their local observatory or planetarium? Now you see where my project's going. We're going to learn about space. We're going to learn about, it's my unit, okay, it's a science unit, or it could be an English unit, and this is what our project's going to be. How can we encourage people to visit their local observatory or planetarium? It's connected to our community. The audience is going to be our community, and then we have to decide what we're going to use to try to present this message to them. Okay, let's take a look at a whole. I'm going to show you 2 different, if maybe even 3 projects. I'm going to like to start with a primary school English project that I'd like to show you. Let me open it up. And I'm going to go through and explain the 7 steps. So today, because this is just a webinar and we're not doing a full training on how to do a project, I want you to just see what an overall project looks like so that you understand the scope of it and what we're trying to do through a project. And I want you to understand the 7 steps. So, because the main point here is a lot of times when people think about projects, they have maybe a different concept. And the concept is that I do everything for the kids. I prepare everything for the kids. I tell them step number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that they're going to do. And that's not really what project-based learning is. We want the kids to be involved with the ideas, with what we're going to create, how we're going to solve things, and give them some freedom. Because we're trying to develop their minds, not us, not our minds. They need the developing. Okay, so here are the 7 steps of project-based learning. As I told you, the first one is the need to know over here. Okay, what is the connection to real life? As I said, if my unit was the universe or the solar system, how am I going to connect this to real life? Yeah, we have local observatories and planetariums. Maybe that's how I can connect it to real life, okay? Then we need the driving question. That's exactly what my driving question was. How could we let people know about their local observatory? Then we move on, and if you see at the bottom, there are 3 different areas: inquiry and innovation, 21st century skills, and student voice and choice. These are usually happening at the same time when we start the unit. And what that means is student voice and choice means we want the students to have some freedom. We don't want every project to look the same. They should have some freedom. They should have some choice. I'm going to show you how to do that. 21st century skills means we're developing all of those thinking skills, creative thinking, critical thinking. And then inquiry and innovation means let's ask questions. Let's do a questionnaire. Let's do a survey. Let's ask people. Let's do some research. Let's gather information to help our project. And then we go to feedback and revision. So once we have an idea for our project and we start putting it together, we need to get feedback on it and make it better. And then finally, we present our project to someone. It could be just to our class. It could be to our school. It could be to even someone in our community. I'm going to show you some examples of that. Okay, so let's take a look at this unit, which is for primary, and it's for English learners, okay? And this unit is about trains. Now, this is really connected to real life. I live in Spain, and I went to work in another area of Spain in the south called Extremadura. And in this area of Spain, they are having a lot of problems with trains because a lot of people aren't taking the trains. They're in jeopardy of maybe going into ruins, okay? So remember I told you break down your unit into 4 subtopics: preparing for a trip, types of trains, routes, and schedules. Now this works very well for me because I want the kids to learn preparing for a trip, things like packing your suitcase, what should you take, names of things. Then we're going to talk about types of trains. That's where the project starts. We're going to learn about routes. So we're going to talk about directions. We're going to talk about how to read a map. And then we're going to talk about schedules. So we're going to learn time, working time, and how schedules work. My main focus for grammar is going to be modals. All right. So here's some of the main first language that I want to get out when I start my unit with the kids. This is for me. This is not for the kids to see. this digital unit is so I remember what I'm going to teach. I'm going to start here with the kids. This is a fantastic video. Whoops. Somebody's got a mic on. Okay. Let's see. Oh, good. It's off. Okay. So this is a great way to grab the students' attention. This is a train that goes through a middle of a marketplace. And so we can talk about some of the CALP language, which is, right, schedule, route, passengers, who rides this train? Why is it going through the middle of a town? What is the schedule? How many times does it pass through the town every day? Is it a passenger train? Where are the tracks? So we're going to be learning all of this language. But it's also getting them interested in unusual trains and routes. Okay. Now, getting ready for the driving question. I took this picture many years ago when I was on the train in this area of Extremadura. I was the only person on the train except for the driver. And I took the picture and I was so surprised that no one was on the train, but then I understood why they're having the problems. So I would show this to the kids and tell them exactly that. I was the only person on the train. This isn't good for business. So here's the driving question. How could we get more people to ride the trains in Extremadura? Notice it's connected to something real. It's connected to real life. It's actually something that we could work on and is important to their community. Okay? So now after I teach some of the parts of the unit, now I'm going to start going into the project. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. There are lots of old trains not in use and trains that could be modified. What I do is I show the kids 3 different types of trains. Each of them is a themed train, and this is getting those 21st century skills in now. The 21st century skills, the inquiry and innovation, and the what was the other one I want to say? The freedom of the voice and choice. So the first train is the strawberry train in Aranjuez. This is in the first picture you can see on the left. This is a train that it's like a historical train, and it has actors, and they have strawberries that they give the passengers. And the train goes from Madrid to Aranjuez, and they act on the train. So I'm going to have the kids with, let me show you this, a graphic organizer. And as we watch each video, we're going to take some information. What makes this train unique or interesting or different? And then I have the kids tell me, well, the first train was old. It's wood. They have strawberries. They have actors, right? It's a historical thing. I want them to analyze the video with me. Okay. The second video is the Pokemon train in Japan. Okay. This is not the same as the first train. So we're going to go to the second train. And this is where we're going to take some general notes about what made the Pokemon train unique. It's color, it's pop art, right? It's fun for kids. You can bring your Pokemon things, et cetera, et cetera. And then the third train is the Harry Potter train. Now this train is based on a movie, and it's also mainly the route that's very interesting, the scenery, what you see, okay? And we talk about how people who love Harry Potter might want to take this train. So the kids are analyzing these, not me. I'm building their 21st century skills, okay? And we're going to write down, some trains people ride them because they're old. Some people ride some trains because there's food involved, or because it's fun for kids, or it's related to history. Okay, very good. All right. And then we bring in a little bit of our grammar. Who would like to ride this kind of train? Is there anyone who shouldn't? What could people bring to make the ride better? Right, so we're practicing some of our grammar. And then after we fill this out, now the kids are going to think about, okay, Extremadura, we need to propose a way to get people to ride the trains in Extremadura. Now we have some ideas, right? Because we just saw the Harry Potter, the strawberry, and the Pokemon train. This is where I want them to have their creativity, right? Think of a proposed train theme, what your train might have, could have, should have, must have, and make a checklist. So the kids would work together in groups and say, I think our train should have this. It could be related to this. This is who could ride our train. That's where the voice and choice comes in. I'm giving them freedom. I'm not telling them what kind of train they need to make. They are coming up with the idea, okay? So after they have their checklist and they say, this is why we think that people would like to ride this train, then we might do some inquiry and innovation and think about, okay, who's going to take this train? If that's the empathizing. Define what they might need and what they might not want, what they might want. Then we ideate, we brainstorm what the train should look like, and then we prototype. So usually when we do things with the projects, we try to plan it out before going directly to the project. Okay, so this is a good thing to use inside of PBL. It's called design thinking. So now I want my students to come up, after they've brainstormed, they come up with the idea, they know possibilities of a themed train. I want them to create a draft of what they think their train would look like and how they would get people to ride the train. And so here are some possible ideas that people have come up with in order to get people to ride the train. Now, this is just a draft. We're not entirely sure that this is what we want to do, but we have to create the whole package. So this is just the first step of the project. Now, we're going to do what we said before. Step 6 is feedback, okay? And so what we want to do with the feedback is we want kids to look at each other's projects and give each other feedback on how they could make their project better. And if you're interested in it, I would take a look at, if you're interested in learning more about feedback, I would take a look at something on YouTube called Austin's Butterfly. And it's a very good example of showing how going through with kids and showing them how to give each other feedback, be kind, be clear, and be specific on how to make their project better. Feedback is a big part of PBL. We want the kids, we don't want them doing a project and saying, I'm done. It's perfect. The idea is you prototype, you come up with ideas, you make it better. You go back and you make it better, okay? And then after we have an idea for our train, we go on to section 3 of our unit, which was routes. So we're going to learn all about maps, and we're going to create a route for our train. So after we learn all the language about distance and how to read maps and north, south, east, west, and all of that kind of stuff. And then we'll go to section 4 of our unit, which is schedules, okay? And so we're going to learn about how to read schedules, how to write schedules. We might even ask an expert about the schedules, and then we're going to propose a schedule for our train. So in the end, the final product that we're going to have is maybe even like a pamphlet or a brochure or a poster that we're going to promote the idea of our train. We're going to include a schedule, and we're going to include a route for the train. Now, it could be this kind of train. I also did it where we narrowed it a little down and where there was a little bit less freedom. And what we decided was also that we wanted to have the kids create a train for people who ride bikes. Because in Extremadura, a lot of people like to ride bikes, but they don't take the train because there's no place to put their bikes. So that was another possibility to make it even more connected to the community. Okay. We're doing good on time. Now I'd like to show you a secondary project, and this one's related to content. So the first one was English. This one is for CLIL teachers, which means you're teaching content, subject, and language at the same time. And this is for a science teacher. So let me open this one up, take you through the project. This main thing is to show you that you're not sending the project home. The kids are doing it in class with you in steps. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this. This is for secondary school. And again, we're connecting it to real life. This is a unit on ecosystems. And in this unit, we're going to create nature. It's called the Nature Science Project. Okay. So again, we break down the unit into the 4 sections: ecosystems, habitats, biodiversity, and adaptation. This is the need to know. We have to know this information. And we want to teach each other to observe and protect local water walks. Here's some of our main vocabulary that we need to teach through the unit. And here's my advanced organizer. Since this is for secondary school, I'm going to show them the actual place that we're going to be working on. So, and this is real. Where I live in the north of Spain, where there's lots of rain, a lot of rain. And we have a lot of small rivers and streams like this. And some of them are almost undiscovered. Like people don't even know that they are there, or they're maybe sometimes in bad condition. And so, or dangerous even, like some of the bridges are falling down and it's kind of dangerous if someone goes on the water walk. So I'm going to present this to the kids and say, hey guys, I found this old river walk on the weekend. It has no information or signs, and even some of the bridges are falling down. So I think this would be a really great project to connect to our unit on ecosystems, and that if we create a good enough proposal, we might be able to get the town or the community to put some money towards this water walk to fix it up. Okay, so here's the driving question. What can we do to help protect and promote this river walk? Okay, so this is the big driving question. The kids know where we're going with this unit. So as I told you, we're going to go through and teach the different sections of the book. I'm going to teach about the ecosystems, regular class, regular way, use the book. That way, even make sure I cover my content. And then we're going to connect it to the project. Okay, and so we're going to have the kids thinking about the river walk and connecting the ecosystem. So what kinds of plants and rocks and what's inside the water, getting the kids thinking. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start breaking down into groups for the project. So one group is going to be the plant and flower group. Another group is going to be the trees. Or I could say one group is a plant group, one group is a flower group, a tree group, animals, insects. That way I'm breaking the kids down. I would say no more than 4 kids per group. They're going to become the experts in each of these areas. So the first thing we're going to do after we teach the ecosystems section, what is an ecosystem, we're going to go to the river walk and the kids are going to do some research about their section. The plant kids are going to focus on the plants. They're going to see what kind of plants are there. Maybe they're going to take some pictures, take some notes, etc. Okay? Now, even within the group, I can break it down further because sometimes this is some of the questions people have. Well, if I have 4 people working in a group, how can I make sure everybody's working? That only 2 kids are doing the work and 2 kids are doing nothing. So you can break down the work within a group. So let's say I have a plant group, okay? Maybe I'm going to break down the work within the group and say, well, one person's going to see how many plants there are, one's going to tell us how many types they see, someone else is going to tell us how big the plants are, and someone else is going to tell us the location. So everybody has a job within the group. And then they present it to us. We found that there are, and this bring in the grammar, how much, how, right, few, a lot of, a little, and they're going to present their findings. That's only step 1, and we've learned about the ecosystem. Then we would move on to section 2. After the kids, we're going to learn section 3, habitats and biodiversity. Now we're going to map out the river walk. We're going to see what type of habitats there are. We're going to talk about the biodiversity after we do the book. We're going to do the book. We're going to learn all of these things the regular, normal way, and now we're going to practice it and put it into the project. So the kids, that's the second step. The kids are going to map it out. Now, I'd also like to add one more thing at this time. A lot of times people ask, well, how do you grade these projects? So what you'd really want to do is keep a portfolio. Now, it can be a digital portfolio if you are able to do that. If not, it would be a paper portfolio. So let's go back for a second. When I started off and I have the kids, we do ecosystems and they do the first step. Maybe we do a KWL chart that goes into the portfolio. When the kids go out and go to the water walk and write down their notes, right, about the 4 different areas or whichever area they're working on about plants, that goes into the portfolio. If they do a little presentation and the teacher gives them feedback, that goes into the portfolio. So every single step goes into the portfolio. When we make the map, that goes into the portfolio, okay? All right, so last step, we're going through the adaptation part of the unit, and now we're ready for the kids to think about how are we going to get people to come to this water walkway, and how are we going to prove and teach others about the ecosystems. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to create signs for the river walkway. Now, we might not be able to keep them there permanently, but maybe we could at least do it so that we could even do it so that maybe on an app or even on our school page, that if people go there to walk, they could even follow along on our app and see the pictures that we made that go along this walkway. So now we have to use some critical creative thinking. And again, that voice and choice is coming in, the freedom. Where should we put our signs, and what should be on the signs? Okay, this is where the creativity comes in. But I want to go through some things. And again, like with the trains, I want the kids analyzing. I don't want to tell them what to put on their signs. I want them to think about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to analyze other signs, other nature signs, and say, what does a good nature sign consist of? Wow, okay, usually it has a big picture, a large title, it has a map, it tells you, it defines some words, right? It tells you the history, maybe a timeline, it shows you the location. I want the kids analyzing these and saying, yeah, this is what should be on a good nature map, and a nature sign. And then they're going to create their own. So a good nature sign may have, should have, could have, etc. Right? They're going to make their checklist of what they want to include on their nature sign. Maybe get some feedback before they make it. We can think about who's going to be reading the signs, what should be on the signs. Are there any limitations or special needs? And then we're going to sketch out what we think should be on our nature signs. Okay? And then we have to get feedback. Remember, that's the step 6. So even we say, okay, this is just an example. So the kids create a draft of what their nature sign is going to look like. They have to show it to the class, show it to other kids, show it to somebody, and get some feedback. Okay, if you're really lucky, maybe you can get a local park ranger to come to your class and look at the signs the kids have made and give them some feedback. You never know. You never know until you ask. Okay, and then after we do that feedback and revision, right, we're going to present it to the class or to the community. We saw in one of the videos, they were talking about BIE, Bucks Institute of Education. On their website, they are the leaders in project-based learning. BIE, Bucks Institute of Education. And you can find lots and lots of resources on their website related to project-based learning. Contracts, rubrics, project team plans. You can find a lot of stuff on there. Okay, so I'd like to show you this video to give you a really good idea of how they go through the steps and how you see the kids are doing the work, and it's related to something in real life. So let's take a look at this. Okay, 1 second. So this is high school students in Maui in Hawaii, and it works very well with the last thing because it's also related with water. And so this is a whole project that they did, and I'd like you to take a look because it's really impressive.
Project Stimulate is all about problem-based learning, where we get a problem and we have to use what we learn as we go on to solve that problem.
So in the beginning of our class, we were assigned with a real-world issue, and our issue was Hawaii is facing water shortage. So along with that, we are assigned with a project, and this project is presentation and a very long report that we have to present at the end of the 4th week of program.
Lately, seeing the statistics and the graphs and stuff, there's not much clean water in the ground, and especially with tourism rates bumping up, it takes a lot of water out from our ecosystem, and soon the generations to come won't have anymore.
To me, the main focus of Project Stimulate, other than learning things in like the educational sense, I think it's more about real life things and things that are actually happening in the real world, and how important it is to remember all these things that are happening and finding possible solutions.
So along with Project Stimulate, we go on many field trips. We went to Pai Loco, and that's a lo'i farm. And we went to Yao Valley. Each time we met up with Ikevai, and Ikevai is an organization working to improve our water situation. But we had representatives from Ikevai that were also representing the Hawaiian community. And every single time they had explanations or stories of things like the lo'i farms that we used to have and how it could relate to our water issues.
Because we went to many places like Pai Loco and like lo'i patches, and we learned a lot about the history of the water, I feel like that's important to remember how it was before, especially even now with the shortage.
The experience was good. We got to meet like new people and stuff, and I got to actually get to learn more of like real world issues and like how to write papers and like do sideshows. But I learned from like field trips, like we went to Pai Loco. I learned how they only use their own water that's there, and then like we went snorkeling on one trip. Like we looked at the condition of the ocean and how like you can tell if it's clean, if it's like dead or stuff like that.
I've learned a lot in terms of research and how to properly research a lot of things that you would need for a science project. Genuinely, I really like Project Stimulate.
So you can see these kids are highly involved with what's going on. This is really, really impressive. I'd like, since I have time, I want to show you one more quick one for primary school. And this is for a primary school that was in sort of a at-risk area. A lot of these kids come from poor homes and they've got a lot of problems going on. And through the projects, they're trying to empower these kids to feel like they have a voice and they can do things for the communities. And I'd really like you to see this because it's a great thing you can see with the little kids. Okay, 1 second.
U.S., we have a persistent gap in the achievement of kids who live in poverty and kids in wealthy communities.
What's this over here?
Project-based learning is a very powerful tool to connect students with their communities, with real purposes and audiences, and it does appear to be an effective way of improving student achievement. My name is Annalisa Halverson, and along with Nell Duke, we designed curricula that integrated literacy and social studies using project-based learning. Project PLACE stands for Project Approach to Literacy and Civic Engagement. We designed 4 big projects. We aligned the units around the literacy standards and social studies standards for 2nd grade. Then we commenced a fairly large study to test the impact in high poverty, low performing school districts. Our study was with 48 different classrooms in 20 elementary schools. Half of them were assigned to teach the projects that we designed, and half of them were asked to teach the regular social studies curriculum. Teachers were randomly assigned to do project-based learning or not. These were teachers who did not have prior experience doing project-based learning. They taught 60 lessons, and we tested children at the end of the school year. We found that students who received project-based learning scored at higher levels in reading and social studies. So that tells us that a project-based framework can be successful right out of the gate.
So this morning, we are going to go on our field trip to Hawthorne Park. My name's Aaron Phillips. I teach 2nd grade at Grayson Elementary. We are doing the Civics and Government unit of Project PLACE. We started the unit by taking a field trip. Go ahead, guys. We go to a park and kind of just discover the park and look at its strengths and weaknesses. All the kids were engaged, all the kids were interested. That is when they can shine, and you can see a total difference in the learning.
It was very exciting for our kids to feel that they had a voice in what could possibly promote change.
Wow! Right away, the driving purpose
to improve the park or other public space is established.
All right, let's start heading towards the bus.
Every lesson, there's a direct connection between what students are doing and that ultimate purpose that they have.
So the ground of the play structure was not safe.
We were writing things that you did not like and you think that you can fix. You could like fall down. There's no wood chips and the weed barriers are coming out.
Does anybody have any ideas of something we could do?
We could say to the person who made the park to fix the park.
Our hope was that students would see that they're valuable contributing members to a community and they can make a difference.
I wonder if we could try to persuade people in the government to fix something at the park. We learned how to write a proposal. They got to create posters for the different departments within local government. So what does the sanitation department do to help citizens?
It helps the environment be clean.
There you go.
Children are curious about the world around them. They're curious about issues in their community and what adults do.
Is this what your group did, Kaylee?
So civic education is a really important part of students becoming functioning citizens who are contributing and are active in their communities.
Make the play area safer.
We took the work and made it into a PowerPoint presentation to ultimately present it to somebody on city council.
Today is the proposing day where we propose to the councilman.
Hi, I'm City Councilman Randy Carter.
We know from research children's writing tends to be stronger when they are writing for an audience beyond school.
Good morning and welcome to Grayson Elementary.
Part of it is that project-based learning conveys high expectations for students.
Our class suggested adding more wood chips.
As much as possible, we want to give kids an opportunity to write for an audience that's not just their teacher, but maybe members of their local community, their state, their nation, or the world.
Councilman Carter, we hope you enjoyed our hard work.
They were able to show me with pictures and data exactly what the problems are. And I will act upon their proposal immediately. Can we say Grayson Gators get things done?
It just makes myself proud that I'm helping the whole community.
Okay, so this is just a fantastic example. These are at-risk kids, and many of them come from very poor homes. Maybe they've got a lot of troubles going on, and you can even kind of see it in the kids' faces and in their eyes. You can see that they're going through problems, these kids. And so this project gets them to feel empowered. The teacher's taking them to the park and saying, where are the problems you see? What do you think is wrong? What could be improved here? And so then the kids take notes, right? They're doing the analyzing, not the teacher. The teacher's telling them to go around and find the problems and what needs to be better. And then they go through this whole project. You could see the kids were so into it and interested. And in the end, they're presenting it to the local counselor, the local chairperson. And so that was just fantastic. They're working on reading, they're working on writing, presenting, all of these things. Absolutely fantastic. You don't have to do a project that big, but it's doable. That's the main thing, is to see it's doable. So do we have any questions before we go? Any specific things you'd like to know about? I'd be happy to answer any questions. Go ahead, Aparna.
Hi, Miss Jennifer. Good evening. This is Aparna this side. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to know, when we are going about with the project-based learning, right? So in a classroom of 20 to 25 kids, so we have a lot of learner types in that, okay?
Yeah.
So somebody will be very quick in understanding your problems, and somebody is going to take time a lot, right? So in that scenario, how should we manage this project-based learning with them so that everybody gets into the same page and they are sync with each other?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. There's something called differentiated learning, and maybe you've learned about that. Differentiated learning it's kind of more work for the teacher, and basically what it does is let me see if I can write this in the chat for you, so in case you want to take a look at this. Differentiated learning. And in differentiated learning, you can differentiate the content, the process, the product, or the environment. And so when you have students of different levels within the same class, really what that means is the teacher has to think about, how am I going to differentiate this? Okay, so maybe some students, the question is, okay, the content, how am I going to get this content to the kids? And this is where you see some people, maybe they show videos, and then they also do readings, or they maybe you make a reading a little bit less for some of the kids. Then maybe you want to deal with the process, right? For some kids, maybe the going through the whole process of the project is a little bit heavy. So maybe you want to reduce it for some of them. The main thing though is when you differentiate, it doesn't mean making it super easy. It means looking at the level of where the kid is and challenging them from their level, okay? And so what you would have to think about is, do I want to put lower level kids with higher level kids and hope the higher level kids pull them up, right? Do I want to put a bunch of kids that I know are a little bit lower together, but challenge them as a team, as a group, you know, whatever it is that I'm expecting from them, or the product that they create. So maybe some kids, I'm expecting that they could create a really big proposal and a product, and maybe some kids, I don't think they'd be able to do that. So I might put them together. But it depends on you. Do you want to put the lower levels together, or do you want to spread them out and have them work with other groups? But maybe even within the group, you give them some work that's doable for their level. Really, it's all up to the teacher, unfortunately, with differentiated learning. Yeah. Good question, though.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? No?
I don't think anyone has any question.
You would mind if I ask one more?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, in between you just gave a name of a website where we could find resources. Like, can you just repeat that website?
Yes, and I'll write it in the chat. It's called Bucks Institute of Education, BIE. And they are kind of like the leaders in project-based learning. And on their website, you can find all sorts of free resources that you can download. You can even see examples of projects. But really, if you do a search on project-based learning, so many teachers share their projects online. Almost full whole projects that you can take and use. So that's a good place to start as well, and see what's already online that someone has shared, that you could download it and download all of the activities and give it a try until you get accustomed to how to run a project. There's lots of information online. All right, good. Anybody else before we go? Don't be shy. I know everybody's over.
It was really a good pro.
Go ahead.
Jennifer, I don't have actually a question, but I want to know if you could actually share the pedagogical approaches towards the differential learning. That would be actually great. I mean, those what you actually follow.
For differentiated learning, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, indeed, Jennifer.
Okay. For differentiated learning, if you're interested in this, let me make sure I'm going to give you her correct name. Let me check something.
Thank you.
I don't remember if it's Carol-Ann or Caroline Tomlinson. It's Carol-Ann. Okay, let me write this down. Carol-Ann Tomlinson. She is a person who writes a lot about differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction is not PBL. Okay? That's something else. But differentiated.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I'm listening to you. I'm listening.
Okay. So yeah, differentiated learning is not project-based learning, but as Aparna said, how do you deal with the differentiating? Okay, and so this is what those 4 areas that I told you. You differentiate content, process, product, or environment. And if you're interested, there's also things called learning menus.
Uh-huh.
I can only give you a few things. Learning menus, and I would also look into something called cooperative learning. And in cooperative learning is putting kids in groups to get them to learn together and help each other. And there's something called the Kagan cooperative structures. And that's another good area to learn, to be able to start. And the cooperative learning also works with PBL, because you're having to work together in groups. Okay, so I would say that it would be great to look at the cooperative learning and the K. I showed you a couple in the video. When I showed you in with the plants, and I said you break the kids down into groups, that's called a jigsaw, which is a cooperative learning structure. And so I said that, for example, what the other lady was saying is, so let's say you have a student that's a little bit lower than the other in a group. And I showed, let me go back and show you what I'm talking about if we have a second. Let me just show this to you quickly. That was here. Okay. Let me show you guys. So if we're talking about how I'm going to differentiate, and we go back here, what I was telling you guys was, so let's say that I break the kids down into groups, and I have a plant group, a flower group, a tree group. That's a jigsaw. That's a cooperative learning. Here it says cooperative learning jigsaw. I can break it down even further into a jigsaw within a jigsaw. This is cooperative learning. So if I know one of the kids in the group is a little bit lower, I might give them a job within the group that's a little bit more doable. Okay, so you see that within the plants, one kid might find how many plants, one kid the types, one kid how big, one kid the location. I might give the kid who has a little more trouble the easier one, but not so easy that they become bored. When you do anything with differentiation, you have to challenge the kid from where they are.
Yes, indeed.
Okay? You want to challenge them. Yeah, so this is cooperative learning. And then also other things I had shown you here, these are cooperative learning as well. Getting kids to write things down in groups to help the different level learners. These are all cooperative learning.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm actually planning to do a project for Mexico because I'm bilingual. I want to do these kind of approaches actually would help me because this is actually a big challenge over there, and especially in Central America and Mexico. So I thought I could ask you, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughtful insight information. And it really actually, your training actually, the second time I actually requested a lot that actually would hear from you again. And thank you, Sushmita ma'am, for giving this opportunity. And to you, Jennifer. It's really, really very, very helpful for me and for all of us.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. There's only so much we can do in an hour, so I try to do guys as much as I can, but at least to get you thinking.
Actually, to be honest, it is our work to do actually to expand your vision now and to work on it. Yeah.
That's right. And there's lots of resources online. Guys, there's so many people who share things for free. So many teachers who have done projects, and they put everything online, and you can use all of it. You know, you just got to do a little search for it.
Yes, indeed. I need to do research here.
Yeah. Okay,
thank
great.
You so much. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, Sushmita, are we finished?
Yeah, I think we can wind up now. Anyone have any questions? It's already...
Yeah, ma'am, I have one question.
Go ahead.
I'm Ranjit. Hi, ma'am. I have one question. I'm old student. How to make a plan for every day in interview class? I'm still in doubt this topic.
You're talking about with projects?
Yeah, not project. It's a plan. Pre-plan.
You're talking about the lesson planning?
Yeah, lesson planning, right, ma'am.
That is a different issue, Jennifer. Today is not Jennifer's topic, that one. We will later on discuss on that. Okay, Raman?
Okay,
lesson
ma'am.
plan is different and project-based learning is a little bit different.
Yeah, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Okay, मुझे पता नहीं
Yeah,
था.
no problem. Next month we'll have a class on lesson plan. Don't worry.
Sure, ma'am, sure. Okay, thank you. Bye.
So I think we should wind up now. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for such an insightful and concrete session.
Thank you, Sushmita ma'am.
Most welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Goodbye.